Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined by Christine Khor. Christine is the CEO of PeeplCoach.com. Christine, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Christine, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've got a vast variety, a bit of background in terms of your career, so I'd love to learn more.
So, you can't see me because this is a podcast, but I am Chinese by background, although born here, as per my Australian accent. And when I was going to school, my two career paths were doctor or lawyer,
The
as
standard.
every great first generation immigrant should be. And I'm not quite sure whether it was lack of effort, lack of desire, or lack of competence, i.e., intelligence, of whether, but I didn't get into either of those courses. What I did get into was an arts degree, which at the time my father said, "But you can't draw. Why are you doing art?"
Interesting.
But what I did there, I did a major in psychology and criminology, and I really, really loved it. I love the thought, well, I love the work around understanding what motivates people, what our obstacles are, and what we can do to basically unleash our potential and be the best that we can be. I left university and I decided to take a year off, and I fell into a role in marketing, and I really found love there, right? Because I really love the concept of marketing. Marketing is like psychology, but for brands. It's about understanding motivators for people, why they buy, why they don't buy, and oftentimes meeting some sort of need, an emotional need, a physical need. And so I did that for many, many years. And I worked for some great organizations. I led teams. But about 15 years in, I saw a gap in the market with a girlfriend of mine where we were using recruitment agencies, and we wondered how they made so much money and why they did what they did. And we saw a real gap, that if sales and marketing people helped find jobs for sales and marketing people, but also help build sales and marketing teams, wouldn't that be better? And so we quit our jobs without really knowing how to run a recruitment business, not even know how to run a small business. And we
Hmm.
started a business 20 years ago, and that business still exists today. So really, really proud of that. But about 10 years ago, I guess what I transitioned to is, while I was still doing recruitment, and I still do recruitment, what I started to do is work with people on a one-on-one basis to actually help them understand what's driving them,
Hmm.
how to build their career, and ultimately how to build, better businesses. So how do they become better leaders? Now, the issue with that was that I was making a huge amount of impact. I really enjoyed what I was doing. The businesses were thriving, business I was working with were thriving, but I only got to work with the most senior people in organizations, which made sense because of the way the cost models are for coaching. And no right or wrong judgment in this, but the reality is I mainly work with men.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
the leadership in this country is all driven predominantly by men and skewed that way
and
across the globe, basically. But yeah.
correct, and
Hmm.
mainly
Mm.
white Anglo-Saxon men,
Hmm.
right, of a
Yes.
certain age. And I love men. Like, one of those men is my husband. He's a white Anglo-Saxon,
Yes.
45-year-old plus man. I love them. But for me, it was like, well, if we are really going to ever have equality, diversity,
Hmm.
innovation, creativity, we've got to get the access of resources not only at the most senior level, but throughout an organization. And that really is where the concept of People Coach came up. It was, how do we democratize executive coaching so that
Okay.
it's accessible to all? And that's what I spent the last 2 years of my life doing. And what I've done is, we believe we've codified the process of coaching. So we've created the opportunity for people to do exercises, to think about their career, to think about their leadership, to think about their development, and how they can add value to organizations.
Hmm.
And through our platform and our processes, we can now deliver one on one coaching to anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Interesting. So, in the capacity of one-on-one coaching, are they involved with the coach through the
Yes.
process? They are involved with the coach.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
Mhm.
absolutely. No, no, no.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
our exercise and our platform
Hmm.
help people create insight about themselves,
Yes.
help create awareness, I guess, and give them some technical skills. So the technical skills around, especially because our target is emerging leader. an emerging
Okay.
and developing leader, right?
Hmm.
And to be a great leader, you need to have two parts. One part is the technical side. So, are you a great marketing technician,
Hmm.
accounting technician, programmer? So, that's the technical side. And that's where we spend most of our time. That's what you do at university. That's what your organization teaches you is how to be technically good at the function that you choose to be.
Hmm.
But what actually makes you a great leader and a great business person is your other skills, your leadership skills, your ability to influence, your ability to lead, your ability to handle difficult situations and chaos, your ability to keep calm. Those are things that aren't necessarily taught,
Yeah, they're
and
soft
they're the
skills,
things,
aren't they?
all the
Right?
soft skills, how to
Yeah.
communicate so that it lands,
Hmm.
not communicate in a way that I want to tell you, but
Hmm.
in a way that you will hear me, right? So it's that stuff that we work on.
Okay, get it. So from that perspective there, so being in the coaching realm, working with executive leaders, I'll diverge a little bit. What have you found has made big impacts with people? Is it their thoughts, beliefs? What sort of holds people back when they're in an organization in terms of making decisions or working with teams? What are some of the key factors there that definitely
Fear,
people can fear? Okay, cool. Yep. And what
right?
is
So
what?
we are scared that
Hmm.
we look stupid.
Hmm.
We are scared that we are stupid.
Yes.
We're scared that we're going to embarrass ourselves. We're
Yeah.
scared that someone's not going to like us. We're
Hmm.
scared that we're going to be fired. We're scared that we'll never find a job again. Scared that we're going to die, without any money and won't be able to feed our children.
Yeah, interesting.
We're
Mm.
scared that we're going to be found out.
Yep, and that's all fear related
All fear,
generally. Yeah, everything
all
all
fear,
fear. Hmm.
everything.
Okay.
Everything comes down to,
Hmm.
the things that stop us
Hmm.
is fear of the unknown, lack of control,
Hmm.
and what will other people think of us. But actually, what we should be focusing on is what do we think of us, because ultimately, what we think of us impacts us more than what other people think of us.
Correct, unless you're focusing too much on the external factors and
Correct.
leaning on those, right? So
Yep.
from a coaching perspective, it's really about building an awareness to that, one would imagine.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
all about building awareness. And so
Hmm.
our platform delivers some technical learning around those soft skills. So
Hmm.
how to have a courageous conversation, or how to deal with ambiguity in the workplace, or how to deal with a difficult person. So they're all the technical things that we share. We share models, we share
Hmm.
insights, etc. Ultimately though, the work comes down to understanding not just what to do,
Hmm.
but why you aren't doing it. We all know that, when someone's being a bully, that we should all stand up and say that's not okay, and that we should say it in a certain way. You can Google that. You can watch a podcast
Correct.
on that,
Mm.
but we still don't do it, right? We still let the bullies get away with doing what they're saying. We still let ourselves be bullied. So what do we need to do to clear that obstacle and actually step forward? And
Hmm.
that's what the coach does. The coach helps you understand your limiting beliefs, your limiting habits, and then we work with you to unbundle those
Hmm.
and give you the capability and the confidence to step into it.
So break it down a little bit. So working with an executive coach, really one-on-one, intensive sort of coaching, how would you do that and operate that
Mhm.
model? Would that be like a once a week, once a fortnight type model, once a month?
Once a month. Yeah. So our programs start from $99 per person per month,
Hmm.
which means, honestly, if you're an organization, you could get yourself an executive, your team members, a coach for less than $1,200 a year.
Yeah, which is quite palatable for any business, really.
Absolutely. And
Small,
any
medium, or
individual.
large, right?
And
Mm.
right? Absolutely. And they go up from there, of course, but
Hmm.
that's where we start. And that
Hmm.
makes it accessible. And what we do with that program, it's every 6 weeks. So we do exercises. So you get
Hmm.
2 to 4 exercises that you do over that period. And then every 6 weeks you have a coaching session
Okay.
with, but our other programs go from 6 weeks to every 4 weeks coaching sessions.
So it's just more bringing it closer together, basically, in
Correct.
terms of how your
Correct.
programs work. Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, perfect. All right. I think this is a great initiative that you've brought together because I've been involved in working with coaches for a number of years now. They made a big impact to the way I think, feel, and focus on business and life itself. So having access for at that sort of price point for some people, I think it's a great thing. Yeah, to have those conversations because we can all get stuck in it, get in our own way, as I like to put it. And yeah, in
Oh,
terms of yeah, we do, and that awareness is a big thing that sort of comes from working on yourself and with other people to help you open up those little blind spots that you don't really see.
Absolutely. And a coach is not your friend.
Mm,
They're not your partner. They care for you, but they don't love you like your partner does or your
mhm,
parents do, right? So our role is not to tell you anything actually.
mhm,
Our role is to listen to you, to play back what you're saying about yourself or the beliefs that you've got about yourself and
mhm.
help you understand what's blocking you, right?
Get it.
And the thing, because we're confidential, because we're objective, you have a coaching program with me. We might work together for 12 months or 18
Mhm,
months. And then at the end of that, you might think of me fondly, but we're not going to ring each other up and be friends. So,
mm-mm.
it doesn't matter what you've said to me over
Yes,
that period of time. I'm not there to judge you. I'm not there to go and tell everybody else at the barbecue what you said and embarrass you. There's none of that, which when you can be truly free and tell people what your concerns are, then you can work them out.
correct. It's an open conversation, right? And until you get to the point of being able to share openly, the coach is sort of limited in what they can do too. But you can, with good questioning, you can break that down. Let's not dive too much into coaching. Let's look at how you've productized this. So, you've obviously put a bit of the technology behind the product and
Yep.
how it all operates. You have an application from what I've seen. Tell us a bit about your thoughts and how you got from executive coaching into planning out a development of a product which may serve and allow you to scale out your coaching model.
Okay. So what I basically did was I broke down the process of coaching into bits to see
Mhm,
what were the components and how could I create a process, a platform around that to deliver it. So the first part was, where are the cost points? Where are the pain points? So one of the pain points was physically driving to venues, right? So physically sitting in a room together. There's a cost involved with that.
there is, yeah.
So one, let's make it digital. Let's make it, remote coaching. So we
Hmm.
do everything by Zoom. So we were COVID friendly before COVID. So that's number one. That took huge effort, huge cost out of the process. Number two, part of what a coach does is we question and we question, we poke, we probe to get insight about where a person sits and what they're thinking about. So what we did with there is we codified those questions in that process. So what you do as a coachee is that you do those exercises. You think about what's driving you, what blockages you've got, how you behaved in this situation. You observe other people behaving like this in the workplace, etc., etc. So that when you come to the coaching session, you're already pre-primed. We call that, right? So
Hmm.
you've already got that insight, which means when you work with the coach, we can focus in on exactly what the need is,
Okay.
right?
So you're
So that
pulling that out of them pre the session.
correct,
Yep, makes
correct.
sense.
So that's the second part. And the third part is we obviously we put a process to it. So we've got,
Hmm.
the exercise, then we've got the exercises are created to be short form, so under
Hmm.
60 minutes on the job, in the workplace, and then we have the coaching session. So that's pretty
Okay.
much how it works.
So there's a bit of
Um,
education through it. There's a bit of
yeah. Yep.
answering questions in it, I'm gathering, and
Absolutely,
survey. Yeah.
absolutely. So answering questions,
Hmm.
thinking about yourself,
Hmm.
writing things out, talking to people. And, so the first way we start, so, and then was how do I communicate? How do I
Hmm.
communicate easily? So our first MVP
Yes.
was via Facebook Messenger. So we
Okay.
created chatbot, we
Uh-huh.
created exercise that we launched via Facebook. And I just thought that that was the smartest thing that we were just going to, be amazing because it was there, it's on your phone, it's
Uh-huh.
accessible anytime. It's like Messenger, it's not a learnt behavior. We use chatbot to say, hey, how are you? And send reminders and all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Well, people love the coaching and they love the exercises. They hated it being on Facebook. Hated it. With a
Hated it.
vengeance.
Yeah, they
Hated
probably
it.
didn't. They probably thought it was being tracked or
Yeah,
followed,
Well,
possibly.
to
well, a
separate
couple
their
of
work and
things,
personal life.
and look, it was just at the time where all those issues came up with Facebook
Security, yeah.
security, right?
Mm.
So we had a few customers use it that were just, yep, sure, it's fine, it's on people's phones, it's their issue. But then we had more customers saying, actually, no, we won't let
Mhm.
Facebook be used. So there was one issue. But from the individual's perspective, they were like, you know what? I work from this time to this time, and I don't want you sending messages to my private account
Yes.
on 5 o'clock. So one of our exercises was track your week. So all we did on a Friday afternoon was send you a message going, how was your week? Like smiley face, like rate 1 to 5. And they were like, hold on, by 4:30 on a Friday I've logged off. Don't send me any messages at 5 o'clock. Even if it is to say, how are you? I don't want to know about it, which was really fascinating because I'm a workaholic. I'm over 50. So 5 o'clock is still working day for me. I was like, gee, that's late. That's early still. I've still got another 3 hours of working on a Friday. So it was really interesting, that piece, but also the way people use technology. Again, technology is a continuum for me. I use Facebook for personal and for business and blah, blah, blah. But people are very delineated about that. So that was really fascinating. And the whole chatbot thing, that did not work for us, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that comes from either if you're running your own business or if you work for someone else. It's very compartmentalized. When you're running your own business, your life and your work are the same.
No, look.
Like a lot of time is spent either thinking about your work. You got different pressures and different thoughts as to being employed by someone else. So people like to compartmentalize their personal life and
Well,
work
I
life.
think I definitely think there's part of that. I talk about when you own a business, you're a parent. When you're working for a business, you're an auntie or an uncle, right? You still love, the business. You might still go over and above, but you don't love them as much as you love your own children. That's reality, right?
That's a good analogy there to describe
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And lots of aunties and uncles, so lots of employees do go over and above, right? They do answer call, and so when I'm saying that there were a percentage of people that were going, don't contact me at 5 o'clock on a Friday, there were also, like, even now I can see there's lots of people still doing their exercise on a weekend, so I get messages. So our program is on demand. So we have people that do their coaching sessions at 8 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock on a Saturday. So I'm not saying that everybody employed doesn't, but all that, it was just interesting that there was a delineation. And you can say, is it because you're an employee versus a founder or own your own business? You can say, is it because we are working with emerging leaders and developing leaders who are younger, that they actually have better work-life balance? Because here's the thing, me being proudly saying I'm a workaholic and you can get me at 8:30 on a Friday night is actually not a good thing.
No, not really, is it?
Right?
When you think about it, right?
It's not. And so I admire the younger generation, millennials, whatever you want to box you want to put yourself in, but actually saying, you know what, at 6 o'clock or 5:30, I'm turning off my computer, I'm going for a walk, I'm going to chill out with my friends, I'm going to take the kids down the park, whatever you're going to do, that's okay. Like, I think we boomers, or X's, I'm an X, we pride ourselves on the stamina that we have to work all day and all night, which is not a good thing.
It's a different psychology, mindset, thoughts,
Totally.
beliefs, driving, all different people. So I think but everyone's going to be different because you're going to have people that are emerging leaders that are working from 7 a.m. to 8 at night now.
Absolutely.
Like
Have that.
that's a reality.
Yeah, you'll have a spectrum across everything.
And so that's why we make it on demand. That's why everything, if you want to compartmentalize and put it on 10 o'clock on a Saturday, you can do that.
So on demand do you still bring in customization for the users to be able to maybe track, for example, hey, you checked in on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. That was for everybody when you began. And do you now allow the user to pick their check-in times, or how do you do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you give them the ability to manage that.
Absolutely. They can book their coaching sessions when they want. They can do their exercises when they want. Absolutely. Everything is on demand as they choose.
Yeah. So once you got that feedback from that messenger bot, did that then give you like an MVP version 2 and start tweaking, change the approach?
So we moved it off Facebook Messenger and we've built our own platform. And that's what we're using now. And so that platform is mobile first. It's a mobile enabled web platform. And basically that's where we serve up all our information. So all our exercises are there, all our dashboards there. So you can use it wherever you want, right? So laptop, desktop, mobile, iPad, wherever you are.
Now, one of the questions I'll ask here is, how pivotal has your experience been in coaching to delivering an application like this? Clearly, you've been in executive coaching, I think it was 10 years before you went down this path you mentioned. That domain knowledge, expertise, how pivotal was it for you to actually make a success of what now is PeeplCoach?
Well, I don't know any different, but I'm going to say it was absolutely critical because I've built the platform
Mhm.
for me. So I've got two mindsets because I'm not technical by background or function,
Yes.
right? So I'm not building something that I can build.
No,
I'm
you
building
look for an
something.
outcome, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and here's one of the best things of being a tech person, a non-tech person, is I'm not restricted about what can be done or what can't be done. I just
Mhm.
know what I want done.
Mm.
And then it's over to the tech
Yeah.
person to decide what they do, what they can build or not,
Mhm.
right? And when I get told, oh, well, we don't have that, or that's not how it's done, I'm like, well, okay, so it's not how it's done, but can it be done? You know, it's so because I don't
Yeah,
care
you
that
still
it
want the
hasn't been
outcome
done,
delivered.
but
Yeah.
I want it done. So tell me
Yeah.
how I'm going to do that.
Mhm.
So that's number one. And I think that, and the way I've built it is from two lenses. One is a lens of a business person. So if my people were on this program, what information would I want
Mhm.
to be able to track, engagement, impact, return on investment?
Mhm.
Two, if I'm a coachee, so I'm a person doing the exercises and doing it, what do I want? I want it easy. I want it all in one place. I want it, flexible so I can do it on the train, when we're allowed to catch trains or when we,
Well, yeah, back on those
train on
things.
the way
Yes.
home, right?
Mhm.
And thirdly, as a coach. So coaches are not tech gurus. We're people that want a functional application that's intuitive that I can access my people and my program. I don't need fancy things. I don't, I just need something really usable for me. So that's how it's been built.
Okay, so now laying out that you mentioned at the beginning of jumping into this, you started breaking down the processes and designing them out. How did you approach that and get that in your head in terms of thinking? Did you just document it out? Do you flow it through? How did you do that in your own mind?
Yeah. So I'm a person that loves and needs partnership. So
Hmm.
I work best in collaboration. So
Hmm.
the person that helped me build one of the investors, one of the people helped us build it, would actually talk me through and ask questions around how does this work? How does that work? Tell
Mm.
me about it. Because I can be a bit of stream of consciousness, if you
Yes.
can hear me, right? So I can
Yeah.
just keep going. So
Uh-huh.
what he had to do was help me, as he says, codify that
Mm. So he
and
coached
go
you
through the
through the
process.
process, basically.
Well, he questioned me through the
Yeah.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, in terms of, it's all about good questions when you're designing product. I think you've landed on something that I think you did that well, clearly. You brought in someone
yes,
that could get it out of your head and probably ask the right questions that would get to a definite outcome and answer to what the
correct.
product might be. So that's really important to have someone around you that can ask those questions. That person, what was their background, their thinking, and how were they involved with the business?
So their background is startup
Hmm.
and not a tech background as in
Yep.
programmer, but
Hmm.
the business person on the tech side, if that makes sense. So the
Yeah,
person
absolutely.
that
Mhm.
absolutely does
Mhm.
what you just said, takes what the business needs are
Yes.
and puts them and is knows enough to be able to speak to the tech without doing the tech.
Mm.
Yep. The translation point
Translation
between
point.
the two.
Yep.
Yep. And that's
And then from that point, how did you go about finding a team that could then deliver and implement those needs and
Okay, so
outcomes?
that's what he did. That was his background, and so we
okay.
used an outsourced organization to build that.
Hmm.
We made that decision quite deliberately because when you use an organization to do that, you can bring in all the different skills that's required for a fixed term project. So you can bring in the usability person, you can bring in the brand person, you can bring in the project manager, you can bring in the tech programmer, you can bring different skills.
Hmm.
If you build it in house, although theoretically it may have been cheaper, it would have taken a lot longer, but we only would have had one skill set. And I truly believe,
Yep.
like I live what I believe, and that is diversity creates better outcomes. So having mixed groups of people, having debate, having disagreement, having, agitation, that creates better outcomes. Whereas if you only have one person, even though it might have been inverted commas cheaper, then you've only got one way of thinking,
Hmm.
which I don't think leads to the best outcome, especially when you're creating
And
something new and different.
that's a great approach to developing the
Yep,
software. Because, like I said, if you did bring in someone in house, you would have one either very senior developer or one with a couple years experience because they
correct.
would be cheaper. And then, yeah, you've only got a developer's knowledge. There's no UI, no
That's right.
UX, they might not have enough experience to understand the BD, the business development side, and understand those requirements or offer suggestions and things
Correct.
like that. So yeah, so that multi-talented team is very important, especially in not just in the early stages, but in all stages of a software development project.
All stages of business development.
Which is what
Right.
it is,
Yeah, true.
right? This is a tool that serves your business.
That's
This
just
is
the tool
yeah.
for the
That's
business.
right.
Mm.
This is the enabler, and this is the communication vehicle of our business. But it
Correct.
all, like, I've just had a CTO join us, which is fantastic. So this
Brilliant.
is the first official CTO, right? And he was part of our strategy meeting. And I said, first strategy meeting, and I said to him afterwards, how'd you go? And he said, wow, everybody's so different, like so different, and we are. So the 4 people on the leadership team are completely different approaches. Functionally, we've got different experience, but just work-wise, how we approach things, how we think about things. One is very much focused on what's the impact on the people. The other one's, very focused on what's the impact on the customer. But, and really different lenses that can sometimes cause conflict, right? Because what's best for a customer might not always be right. What's best for a coach or a participant, right?
Correct.
So, but having that healthy debate and always then coming back to our core purpose, it means that we have that North Star or that true light or whatever you want to call it, and we can have that healthy debate and agitation to get to that one core purpose.
I think you landed when you said about diversity, bringing diverse thinking to a project, to a business,
Yeah.
to anything in life, really, because no one has all the answers. And yeah, we can pretend that we do. We can walk
Yeah.
around with blinkers on, but no one knows everything. And I think you feed off each other in that environment. So you may have someone, from a different lens thinking about the business and how the business model around the technology, and someone thinking about just the tech and how it gets delivered. And then someone thinking about how's this impacting the actual user at the end of the piece of the puzzle. But then the coach, what's their impact? And I think you need all those conversations, all stakeholders to be thought about and discussed and questioned. But yeah, it's good to have someone that wears that hat, because jumping in and out, you've always got, as a person standing there in a project, you've always got your own hat on. So for me, I lead from more of a business questioning. I understand looking at the business model, how that works, how it all comes together, how the technology is going to serve. And you've got Anthony that comes into a project looking at from perspective of, all right, how are we technically going to actually deliver this thing? So you need all those different hats to get good quality outcomes. 100% agree with that.
Absolutely.
In terms of the business itself, you mentioned you had some investors in it. How did you structure this? Is it complete startup from scratch? How did you build the model of PeeplCoach?
As in, how did I bring investors in?
No,
Is that what
did you bring a team first? Did you bring advisors first? How did you approach getting this up and running?
Well, I started it, and then I brought in my first partner. So Simon, he came in to really help do the questioning and the structuring as we had just discussed. And then what we realized, and I funded that. I funded all of that in the beginning. So it was all self-funded. We actually had a first try at a recruitment matching platform before we went into coaching. And that, to be honest, burnt a lot of our cash. But it also gave us a
Explain
whole
that a
lot of
little
learning.
bit. So first try recruitment matching. So explain.
Yeah. So the first business was called People Match. It
Ah,
wasn't People Coach.
so you
Yeah.
pivoted.
And
Interesting.
we did pivot.
Yeah.
And what the first crack at it was, how do we bring values into and goals
Yes.
and motivations into the recruitment process? And
Oh.
that's what I do as a recruiter. So as a recruiter, I will say to you, Anthony, tell me about what really excites you, what's important to you, where do you want to be in 2 years, if your manager did this, blah, 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 right? And that's what I get paid for. So, organizations pay me a lot of money to not only deliver them a technical skill, but also a behavioral skill and an attitude and a value match. And so my first step was actually to do that. So bring a platform that could bring together people's technical skills, but also, what their goals were, what if they want to work part-time, if they wanted to ultimately be a florist, all that sort of stuff. And it was difficult, and basically, the summary was every time we started to get that to start working, our clients would come back and say, but Chris, I just need your opinion. And what we realized was that for us to get it to work, we would need a whole lot of money
Mm-hmm.
and a whole lot of effort. And here's the interesting thing. I'm passionate about recruitment and I'm passionate about getting people into the right jobs, but I actually wasn't as passionate about building a recruitment business. I'd done that for 20 years, I've run a recruitment business. I wasn't as excited about that. What I was getting to be really excited about was the coaching, the one-on-one impact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's we pivoted for two reasons. One, from a passion perspective. And I remember sitting there, and this sounds really harsh, but basically my business partner and I sat there and we both said, just not that excited about building a platform that's going to make organizations even more money and make people looking for a job work harder. You know, like it was
Which
like
is fair enough if you can learn.
it was
It's good to
like
have that realization.
yeah, it wasn't motivating.
Especially early
But
on.
now, when we say
Mhm.
our job is to make coaching accessible to everyone to benefit the individual and the organization,
Mm.
that's
It's much more
that's a
powerful
BHAG.
impact you can have, right?
That's just
Mm.
that's yeah.
Yeah.
So what that means,
Making an actual
what that
change.
means, right? If we work with you and you start to do your job better and you're happier, it doesn't just impact the organization, which it will, but it impacts your whole life. Like it makes you healthier, it makes you happier, it makes you a better father, brother, whatever you are, because you're happier in your work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have immediate impact, and that's motivating. So once we did that,
You can hear that in your voice too. So
yeah,
when you're talking about the recruitment thing, it was like, this recruitment thing. But yeah, interesting that you found what
and
you're really passionate about at the
you've
moment.
got to
Right?
find that. You've got to do that. And like one of our exercises is the skills passion matrix, right? It's about what are you good at versus what do you love.
Mm.
Like I'm good at lots of things that I don't love. I'm great. Like my first job was 10 years. I got my first lot of long service leave being a dishwasher in a hospital. I'm really good at washing dishes really quick.
I'm sure you don't love that though.
Right. I hate it. I hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate
Yeah.
it, right? And so it doesn't matter that I'm good at it.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to do it.
Mm.
And so you've got to really work on, and that's the scary part when we went back to the beginning. What's scary? It's about what you love to do and pushing through. Like to hocking my house to invest in a business in technology when you're over 50, when 3% of women get any IT support or investment, where
It's a tough gig, isn't it?
young
Mm.
it's tough, but I love it and I'm going to do it. And I am doing it. And that's the fear that you've got to step through.
Yes, you're
And
coaching
that's where
yourself
people
through this, right?
totally.
Yes, you
I
know the tricks.
totally coach myself through things. I absolutely feel the fear. I absolutely get concerned about my future. Absolutely, I do. Stupid if you don't, really. It's how you manage it.
And it can drive you
Yeah.
too.
Does it stop you? Or
Yeah,
does it
so
drive you
it can
or
either
help you
freeze
forward?
you and you can sit down and freeze and be stuck, or you can use it to push you forward. And I think it depends how you utilize that energy in the end.
Yep.
We can all get stuck, but yeah,
Yep.
if you can just make that first step, it can get momentum moving and things can change pretty quickly. Yeah, that's just
That's
stepping
right.
into the unknown is pretty fearful for a lot of people out there, and it's but there's unknown all around us. And as we learned in 2020, change is inevitable. It's going to happen all the time. It's just how we deal with it,
Absolutely.
basically.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And that's what we do. PeeplCoach gives you the technical skills to do it, but also the support to partner you as you start to transition and make some of those decisions yourself and move forward.
And I think there's a lot of learning just talking to you around not only people coach, but what you did with people match. Just there,
Yep.
you've glossed over it, but I think there's a lot of learning that people can take away from this conversation. One, find your passion. What are you actually passionate about? But two, take the feedback from your customers, which is what you got pretty quickly early on,
Yep.
and the realization that this is not going to work. So I think that's really
What was
important.
going to work, it would have worked. In fact, when I went to a tech event or whatever in LA, and I saw an organization that had very similar to what we had built with People Match. The interface wasn't as good. They had less customers than we had. They had less participant or candidates on the platform. Their matching wasn't as good, and they'd raised $3 million in the US.
Yeah, so there's obviously a market there, right?
There was a market there, right? Because it's taking people and cost out of the recruitment process. So there was definitely a need there, and it definitely would have been successful. The issue was I willing to put the work in to make that happen? And I wasn't. Like, I live and breathe people coach. I really do. And it's not work to me. I think I go for a
Yeah.
walk and I think about things, and I don't have anything in my, sometimes I listen to podcasts, sometimes I don't. But a lot of times I walk and I just look at the flowers and I'm thinking about things and things pop up. But they pop up because I live and breathe it.
Yes, you invested in it, right? So you invested in emotionally. Your
Absolutely.
passion is in it.
Yeah, you're not pushing yourself to do something that isn't
Yeah.
returning
So-
anything to you. The financial reward isn't enough of a motivator for you.
And
to
I don't
push
think
through
you've
with
mentioned
something that you
financial
wanna do.
reward once in this conversation. And that's, I think, in our journey, what I've noticed is a lot of people who count the dollars before they build and invest in a business. Generally, they're the ones that find it a little bit hard yards. When things get tough, you really need
Yep.
that passion and drive behind the business to keep moving, because
So
it's
all
not
I'm
easy.
going to say about that is, ladies out there, watch that. Watch that, right? Because you're right, I don't, and women are worse than men. We don't necessarily think about the financial side of it
Yes.
as well as we should, which is not an advantage. And one of my investors actually said, Chris, if you don't start looking after yourself, you'll just end up being like every other woman, making lots of white men lots of money.
Brilliant.
So step up, ladies, and including me. I have made some financial mistakes out of this.
Yes.
Absolutely, I have. They've cost me. I can hold my head high and say that I've got absolute integrity and, blah blah blah. But if I was a male, maybe if I was a different person, if I was I would not be in the financial situation necessarily that I'm in.
Interesting. So
Right. So yeah. So be really careful of that. Although it should not be your main driver, absolutely.
no, but
You've
it needs
got
to be a
commercially
business.
literate. Yeah.
Correct. You need to be.
I'm literate,
Yeah.
but I just I'm a bit like, oh yeah, but we're achieving this amazing thing, so don't worry about it. Let's not worry about it. Let's not worry about it. But actually, you got to worry about it.
Oh, you do, because then you can't. In reality, if you don't get that
It's not a
right,
charity.
you cannot continue to serve and drive this
Correct.
business. If you
Yep.
you run out of money, you run out of cash, and it closes down, who does that serve? And if you're that passionate about an outcome and delivering results,
No, I'm not even talking about that. So I've run businesses for 20 years, so I know how to manage cash. I know how to manage a P&L. It's not about, and I know how to make money out of a business. I'm talking about the shareholding and the investment.
okay, so bringing money in, yeah, okay, yeah.
I'm talking about that part when you're negotiating for yourself. And I see it in women all the time. I see it, whether it's investment in a business, whether it's negotiating for a pay rise. We don't do it.
Yeah, interesting.
We need to do it.
Yeah, no, everyone needs to know their worth and ask.
Correct.
Right.
And
So,
ask.
yeah, it's
Yeah, the worst thing
correct.
they can do is
That's
say
right.
no.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
no, that makes a lot of sense. So, in terms of, take us through some of the key learnings that you've learned about taking a model from completely offline to online. So, what are some of the things that you've learned during the experience of digitizing what is PeeplCoach?
That's interesting.
Can ask the question in a different way, which might give
Yeah.
you a better way to phrase it. So, if you were to go back to Christine, who was about to start and walk into the PeeplCoach venture, what would you tell her to look out for along the journey in developing a technology-based business that has a bit of infrastructure serving your business model?
Oh, that's so hard because the biggest mistake that I've made is with respect to the investment side, so the non-tech part of it.
Okay. All right. So the technicals worked for you. You've been able to
Well,
deliver the
what
outcomes.
what I'm saying is, probably, have we made some tech mistakes? Yes.
Yes.
Right? Did we need to change our platform from Facebook Messenger to, what would not? Yes. Did we have to learn more with, how to use chatbot or not use chatbot? Yeah. Yes. All of that.
Okay.
But none of them were like, holy cow, if I'd known that, I would have, but we had to test and learn. Simple thing. I'll give you a simple thing. Our calendar booking system was TimeKit, not Calendly, right? So we had to change it.
Yep.
Because TimeKit was painful. But that's not a big
They're just more
Yeah,
learnings and
exactly, right.
experiments.
learning experience.
It's not, you didn't have to scrap the whole
No,
system and rebuild
no.
it. Yeah. So that's
No.
a step ahead that a lot of people have gone through. A lot of people end up getting 2-3 versions of it because they've either picked the wrong team
Well,
or
they
the wrong
walk into
approach.
it without knowing.
But you had a measured
Yeah.
approach from the outset, and you had a
Correct.
certain outcome you needed. You knew you had to get diversity and get someone involved that can understand your business side and then translate it to a technical specification.
Well,
and then you got a diverse team involved to deliver that
I
and
think
focus on it.
that's the point, right? So the point is
Yeah.
that when we had the choice way back when of going, well, I know what I want, just do it. We didn't do that. We hired a team that was quite expensive. We had, our scoping session alone was $30,000, right?
Yep.
So, and at the time, as a startup, I was like, holy crap, really? I already know what I want. Do I really need to pay you $30,000 to
Yep.
tell you what I want when I already know it? I can write it in 5 minutes. But actually, what that did is helped us define really some of the things that we had to focus and how we had to focus. So we built the minimum viable out of that, things you do, but we already know what stage 2 and stage 3 is going to look like.
You built the roadmap.
Yeah, so that's probably the
So
most
I
critical
think,
part of the
so if I
development.
have learning, then if we go that way, it's being a startup means being frugal but not being cheap. So what we're looking for is value for money. We're not looking for cheap, right? So value for money is you buy a good pair of shoes for $200 that's going to last you 3 years versus you buy the cheap pair of shoes for $22 that's going to last you a night, right? You do not do that with your business, whether it's your tech team, your people, your lawyer, your accountant. You get value, you don't get cheap.
Yep. And then, so the mistakes you said you've made, you've touched on it a few times lightly on the investment and like ownership side. Is there anything you would change with like possibly the structures of your business or the way you approached it or the negotiation tactics
negotiation.
or something from there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you approach raising capital? Was it going to VCs, friends, family, and
No,
all in
it was
between? How
all,
did you approach it?
and again, I'm going to say another
Mhm.
inappropriate thing. It's just been fascinating. Men and women do work differently. We shouldn't, but we do. So all my investors are men.
Okay.
And I think one of them I approached and asked the question, but the rest virtually came to me.
Okay. It's all drawn to
And
you.
Yeah. I
yeah.
like the idea.
And this is where one of them said, Chris, if you're not careful, you're going to just end up making a whole lot of white old men lots of money, right? Because what was happening is and all of these people, which is interesting, and this is where when we talk about reputation and who you are, your brand, all these people I have known for over 20 years that has invested, except for one who invested, and I've only known him 8 years, right?
Okay, so you know them all quite well in some capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
Only
one of
8
them was
years.
my boss 20-something years
Yeah,
ago.
okay.
The other one used to work for me 20-something years ago, right? And what would happen is I would talk to them about this. I'd say, this is what I'm thinking about, and this one, and I'd ask for help, and I'd ask for feedback, and I'd ask for perspective. And then, one of them actually said, well, how else can I help you? And I was like, oh, well, you can introduce me to this, or you can do this. And he's like, how about money? Do you need money? I'm like, yeah, sure. I always need money. What are you thinking? And he's like, I just want to back you. I just want to really back you. I want to be part of something. I want to back you. So that was one of my first investors, and the one that's just joined most recently is one of my coaches who has been doing coaching work. He's been introducing me to his friends who all happen to be in senior roles, who have then said, this is amazing. This sounds great. This is exactly what my business needs. And this is where men and women are different. Men will do that with each other, as men were like, oh, no, she's my friend. My friend sits in my friend box. My business people sit in my business box. So we don't mix them. Whereas men are like business and work all together, right? And friendship all together. And so then he said, Chris, this is going to take off. Everybody I talk to is saying it's amazing. I want to buy in. So that from my first into my most recent, that's pretty much how it's happened.
Okay, so through your network, you basically, and through contacts and people you've leaned on through the process of become your investors. I get that. So
yeah,
they'd seen you being successful and saw the passion in what you're trying to approach, and then
well, there's a couple of things.
They believed in what you're
There's
doing.
a couple of things with the business, right? One, any business, anybody investing is going to look at is the idea strong, right? So is there a need in the world for what I'm creating? And there is. Is there a unique way that we're delivering it? Yes, there is. Is there a technical capacity and competence there that we want to back this person, this team?
I would imagine
And do we
after
like
this
and trust this
conversation.
person?
Yes.
Pardon?
After this conversation, you can see what people are backing, and it's just the team is generally the first thing, and the people behind it.
Yeah. So do we trust the technical competence of the person and the team, and do we trust the ethics of the person and the team? And that's, I mean, put it this way, we had one legal agreement and you're going backwards and forwards around, if somebody doesn't do the right thing, if blah, blah, blah. And one of the shareholders said, oh, no, everyone's really good people. We don't need that one in there. And I just went, no, we do actually. Like you have to work on the divorce settlement, even if you're not getting divorced. We've got to do that. So we went to the lawyer. But it was quite funny. It was like, no, we don't have to do that. We don't have to work. We don't have to plan if it doesn't work. And I'm like, yes, you do. And he said it won't be a problem. I said, I know that, but you're still got to work for that. You're still got to have an agreement in there for that.
Yeah, so everyone knows what happens. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's been a brilliant conversation. Where is the platform at? So I see you're working with some reasonable brands. How have you rolled it out? Who do you recommend jumps on this platform and brings their employees to it? So you've got some big brands, obviously, you're working with, but who do you recommend that you can actually impact? Does it have to be big brands, or could it be? No.
Nope.
Yep.
We have individuals
Yes.
buying it themselves.
Okay.
Who want to boost their own career and they want to improve their capability,
Yes.
especially in this new world that we're in,
Mm.
where it's important to rely on yourself to drive your own career pathway and your own development.
Yes.
It's cost effective. So you can get yourself a coach for $99 a month.
Yeah,
right?
it is cost effective, yeah.
Absolutely, right? So we say, I mean, and this is, whenever you talk to a VC or who's your target, it's everybody. Anybody that wants to drive their career and any organization that has people that are not at their full capacity.
But is anyone ever at their best? Aren't we always improving,
No.
evolving?
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's the point of time, right? And what are the things that you want to improve?
Get it.
So a coach is like a personal trainer in a way. You're not going to improve if you don't put the work in. So you need to be at a stage where you can actually focus on yourself and it's not a side hustle, right? So are you going to do the work? Like if you want to lose weight, you've got to go to the gym. You've got to watch your diet. You can't just buy the gym membership or pay the personal trainer and say, well, come on, it's your job now to lose my weight for me. You can't do that. You've got to do the work. So that's why when you're not ready, and some people aren't ready because they can't be bothered. They don't want to. They've got other things going on in their mind, or they're really happy where they are and their focus needs to be on technical skills, right? So no, hey, my leadership's okay, but really what I need to learn is better financial acumen. And so then I would say, go off and do that. Go and do a, finance for non-finance people course or something like that and spend your effort there. But look, it is for everybody. Our organizations that are coming to us are big and they're at scale because what they're seeing is that here's the reality. Moving forward, we're going to have less people doing more work in greater uncertainty. So we need people that are technically strong, but we need people that are leadership strong, that know how to communicate, that know how to manage their stress, that know how to have courageous conversations to hold people accountable, that are confident in themselves and confident in being intuitive and taking risks and getting over the fear and doing it anyway. And that's what a coach brings. So whether if you've got one person or 5 people in your team, if you've got 50,000 people in your team, we serve all of those people.
How do you serve them all at that capacity? Can you scale? How many coaches do you need to really scale this thing? Give us an idea of the sort of numbers that you have on the platform. What happens if you had to?
So each of our coaches can do between 40 and 50 participants. And I have a waiting list of coaches joining us.
Okay, so
we're doing another training. So we are scaled. Like if you said, literally I had a conversation with a client the other day and she said, we're thinking about 80 people.
That's two coaches.
There's 2 coaches.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah, can be done. Yeah, okay. So the scale is 40 to 50. So it's bringing on the coaches. In the world that we live in, there are some good people out there, the qualities and coaching backgrounds. But how do you vet your coaches to ensure the quality?
Interesting. Like everything, we have 2 parts of it. The first part is the technical skill.
Yes.
So what business experience have you got? What qualifications do you have? What's your coaching skills? So that's number one. And some of that's quite easy, right? You can see a person's CV. You can talk to them about how they led teams, blah, blah, blah. Part that's most important to us is who are you and what are you delivering? So the people that join us, they truly believe that they are coaches, not just in job title, but in the way they think and feel.
Okay.
So it's a vocation, it's a passion, it's not just a job, right? So they truly believe and they love it. They love the coaching practice. They love serving the others, and they love helping people become being the people that they want to be. And we spend a lot of time on the recruitment process internally, measuring their value set, their attitudes. And so we have like a process. We then put them through training. We observe the coaching sessions. So we do a whole lot of work to make sure that they serve in the right way.
Okay.
So they need to be curious.
Mhm.
They need to be inclusive.
Mm.
They need to be outcome driven.
Mhm.
They need to be courageous and accountable, and they need to love what they're doing.
And I think obviously your recruitment background and being around people,
Yeah, absolutely.
psychology, coaching background, it would make life a lot easier to find the right people to actually build and continue the brand. So yeah, your background is it's like a marriage made in heaven, moving into this area where you've
Oh,
got everything
absolutely.
covered, right? So, and I
Yeah.
think it makes a lot of sense as to where you're headed, and yeah, it'd be great to see where you're at in the next 3 to 5 years. Is your brand is quite interesting, and the model that you've put together is compelling, I suppose, especially for businesses that are looking to grow, evolve, and understand that your people are everything. And without great people and people that are learning and evolving with a business, you're going to be pretty stuck. And I think everyone's learned a bit this year, but yeah,
Yes.
there's nothing more
Yeah.
important than our people.
Absolutely. And look, small businesses, I mean, one of our smallest clients has got 10 people
Yep.
in their team,
Mhm.
and I've got 4 of them that are working with us.
Mm.
So it makes it accessible.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, no, I think it's a brilliant initiative, and I can see the passion just streaming through you. So I can see,
You can hear
yeah,
it in your
definitely, and
voice.
it just comes through the conversation. So it's brilliant to see, and I would imagine you attract plenty of businesses to what you're up to. So yeah, I wish you all the success with this, because I'm sure you're adding a lot of value on the other end as well.
Thank you very much. And to any of your listeners, if you are interested to trial us or put some of your team on, I'm happy to offer any of your businesses a 10% discount if they mention your podcast.
Perfect. We'll let that know through that. And thanks
Perfect.
for
The
first
first
offer for
offer.
the podcast. Thanks for sharing that, Christine. I really appreciate it. And
And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, Christine, how can they do that?
Just go to PeeplCoach.com, which is PeeplCoach.com, or Chris@PeeplCoach.com. Email me directly.
perfect, Chris. Thanks for joining us on DevReady Podcast. Really enjoyed learning your journey, your story, and a bit about what you're up to at PeeplCoach. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, all the best. Bye.